History tells us that civilization began in the parched deserts of southern Iraq. Here, in the ruins of a city called Eridu, the Sumerian king list tells us that kingship first lowered from heaven. But as we dig beneath the surface of the oldest city on Earth, we find a mystery that mainstream archaeology struggles to explain. Beneath the temple of the god Enki, the Sumerians spoke of a realm that existed long before the first stone was laid. They called it the Abzu. To the modern ear, it sounds like a myth, a primeval sea of fresh water. But to the ancients, it was a literal location, a subterranean domain of glowing light, sacred blueprints, and the very origin of the human soul. To understand the Abzu, we must look at the language itself. In the Sumerian tongue, the word is a compound. Ab meaning father or depth, and Zu meaning to know or to be wise. Literally, the Abzu is the deep of knowledge. But there is a technical translation that haunts linguists, the place from which the measuring originates. If the Abzu were merely a primitive freshwater lake, why would it be associated with precise engineering and measurement? In our modern era, we recognize that any sophisticated creation, whether a building or a genome, requires a centralized source of truth for its measurements. The Sumerians were telling us that the Abzu was the architectural and biological anchor for everything that followed. Today, we peel back the layers of sand and myth to ask, was the Abzu a spiritual metaphor or the world's first high-tech genetic laboratory? To understand the Abzu, we must look at its master Enki. In the Sumerian pantheon, Enki was the lord of the earth and the god of wisdom. While other deities resided in the sky, Enki's throne was in the deep. Ancient texts, like the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis, describe Enki not as a primitive magician, but as a supreme engineer. He was the keeper of the me, physical objects that contain the laws of everything from mathematics to metallurgy. There are over 100 me mentioned in the ancient texts. They covered everything from the art of writing to the specific instructions for warfare and metallurgy. But if these were simply ideas, why were they treated as physical cargo? Ancient reliefs consistently show the Anunnaki carrying small, rectangular bags or boxes, the famous handbags of the gods. These are often shown in proximity to the me. In a modern context, these appear to be portable hard drives or data storage units containing the compressed knowledge of a civilization. When a city possessed the me, it flourished instantly. When they were stolen or lost, the city's power collapsed. We are not looking at a primitive belief system. We are looking at the history of a technological dependency. But his most controversial project was not a city or a tool. It was us. The Sumerian creation story is unlike any other. It doesn't speak of a divine miracle, but of a laborious process. The tablets tell us that the lesser gods, the Igigi, grew tired of maintaining the earth. They revolted. In the silence of the Abzu, Enki proposed a radical solution. A new worker would be created to bear the burden. But this worker could not be found in nature. It had to be designed. The Atrahasis tablets provide a chillingly detailed account of this creation. Enki enlists the help of Ninti, the mother of all living. The texts say they mixed the clay of the earth with the flesh and blood of a god. In the language of 4,000 years ago, clay often referred to biological matter and blood to the genetic essence or life force. They spent 7 periods in the Abzu refining the prototype. This was not a quick birth. It was a series of failed experiments, prototypes that could not breathe or speak until finally, the Adapa was born. The Enki and Ninmah text provides a chillingly realistic account of the creation process. It describes a series of failed beings, creatures with imperfections that couldn't function in society. Mainstream scholars call this a lesson in morality, but through a modern lens, it sounds like the iterative process of genetic engineering. When we look at CRISPR technology today, we see the same pattern: trial, error, and the refinement of the mold. The Sumerians claimed the first successful series of humans were the Lulu Amilu. Interestingly, early versions of these workers were described as being unable to reproduce on their own. In biological terms, this is a common trait of hybrids, biological crosses that are often sterile. This suggests that the gift of natural reproduction was a later upgrade, a secondary patch to the human source code. The Adapa was the model man. He was given intelligence and the ability to understand the gods, but he was denied one crucial thing: immortality. We must ask ourselves, why does an ancient civilization describe the creation of man as a laboratory experiment involving the splicing of divine and terrestrial elements? Why did they choose the symbol of two intertwined serpents for the god of healing and creation, thousands of years before we discovered the double helix of DNA? The Abzu was more than a lab, it was a repository. The Sumerians spoke of the Mi discs as objects that could be stolen, moved, and even loaded onto ships. These discs were the software of civilization. When the goddess Inanna tricked Enki into giving her the Mi, the city of Uruk suddenly saw a surge in technology and art. If these were merely ideas, why were they treated as physical hardware? Why did the tablets of destiny have the power to turn the world dark if they were removed from the Abzu? We are looking at a narrative of a centralized data hub, a place where the source code of human society was kept under lock and key. The Abzu was the heart of a global network, and when that network was disconnected, humanity was left with the fragments of a knowledge we could no longer fully operate. Mainstream history calls these tales fictional stories of a primitive people. The most unsettling part of the Abzu narrative isn't the ancient technology, it's the evidence left behind in our own biology. If we were truly designed in these subterranean labs, we should find artifacts within our genetic code. Today, geneticists are puzzled by what they call junk DNA, vast sequences of our genome that seemingly have no purpose. But is it possible that this junk is actually encrypted data, a silent lineage of instructions that we no longer know how to access? In the Abzu, Enki was said to have hidden the Mi of immortality, keeping it away from his creations. Modern science is now engaged in a frantic race to decode the aging process, effectively trying to hack the very locks Enki placed on our DNA thousands of years ago. We are, in every sense, retracing the footsteps of our creators, turning our modern laboratories into a new digital version of the Abzu. But the echo of the Abzu isn't just biological, it is geological. Recent satellite surveys have confirmed the existence of massive, deep-water aquifers beneath the deserts of Iraq. Vast oceans of fresh water that the mainstream world ignored for centuries. The myth of a subterranean sea was a geographical reality. If the Sumerians were right about the water, why would they be lying about what happened within it? As we look at the rising ziggurats of our modern skyscrapers and our silicon-based Mi discs, we must realize that history is not a straight line. It is a circle. We are the inheritors of a silent legacy, a prototype that has finally reached the stage where it can understand its own blueprints. The question is no longer if we were designed, but what happens when the design decides to meet the designer. But these stories were written by the very people who gave us the wheel, the clock, and the first legal systems. They didn't claim these inventions for themselves. They credited the teachers from the Abzu. Today, as we stand on the brink of our own genetic revolution, the whispers from Eridu grow louder. We are beginning to tinker with the same clay that Enki manipulated in the dark. Perhaps we are not evolving into something new, but simply remembering who we were designed to be. The Abzu may be sealed, but its legacy is written in our very cells. We are a lineage with a forgotten past, children of an experiment that began in the deep. Thank you for watching. If you seek the truth behind the silence, subscribe to Silent Lineage. The past is no longer quiet.